Good morning, Thursday, January 26, 2023. Continuing baseball analysis. Who is greater? I'm dealing with pitchers. This video will match up Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson. Who's greater? And who would you take? We know Sandy Koufax had a short career, 12 years. A lot of pitchers pitched 20, 22 years. Nolan Ryan pitched 27 years. Koufax pitched 12. Gibson pitched 17 years. But I think we can match them up and see who's a greater pitcher. I've got categories where I get their complete stats for their career. Wins, career. Innings, strikeouts, complete games, games started. Then I analyze games started in a season, shutouts in a season, ERA career, wins in a season, innings in a season, strikeouts in a season, most, ERA in a season, the best, saves and winning percentage. Let's compare these two guys, see how they match up. Sandy Koufax, 165 wins. Gibson, 251. Gibson played 5 more years. So if Koufax pitches 5 more years, how many more wins would he have had? Let's say he averages 20 wins a season. Because toward the end of his last season, he won 27 games in his last year of pitching. So we can say he had averaged about 20 wins a season. 5 years would be 100 more wins, right? No, it'd be 120. Wait, let's see. 5 times 2 is 10, so it'd be 100 more wins. If he had 165, 100 more would be 265, right? Gibson, 251. Koufax would have won more games if he pitched the same number of years as Bob Gibson. Is that fair? Innings pitched, career. Koufax, 2,300 roughly. Gibson, 3,800. That's a difference of 1,500 innings. Again, if Koufax pitches 5 more years and 300 innings a year, that's 1,500 more innings. They would have had around the same number of innings. Because Koufax, 2,300, another 1,500 innings would have again 3,800 innings, and Gibson, 3,800 innings. So about the same. Strikeouts. Koufax, 2,396 in 12 years. Gibson, 33,117. Difference of about 800 strikeouts. 5 more years for Koufax. 200 strikeouts a year, maybe 3. Koufax had 383 strikeouts one year. Whew. No, 382. Nolan Ryan had 383. But if Koufax has 2,300 strikeouts in 12 years, add 5 more years, let's say 250 strikeouts a year. That's 1,200 more strikeouts roughly, right? Add the 23, 12. Koufax would have had about 3,500 strikeouts if he pitched 5 more years. I'm going to give the edge to Koufax in strikeouts over Gibson. Game started, Koufax 314, Gibson 482. Game started in the season. This is interesting. The most for Koufax was 40. Yet Gibson, the most for him was 36. So Koufax wins there. Shutouts. Koufax had 40 of them in 12 years. Gibson, 56 in 17 years. Got to give the edge to Koufax there. Shutouts in a season. This is where Gibson had a stellar season. 1968, I believe. 13 shutouts. The most in a season for Koufax was 11. Close. Gibson gets the edge. ERA. Best ERA for Koufax, 2.76 in a career. Career ERA for Koufax, 2.76. Gibson, 2.91. Koufax gets the edge. Most wins in a season. Koufax had 27 one year, his highest. Gibson, 23. Koufax. Most innings in a season. Koufax, 335. Gibson, 314. Best ERA in a season. Koufax, 1.73 was his best. Gibson gets the edge. He had a 1.12 one year. Whew. Saves, insignificant. Koufax, he had 9 career saves. Gibson, 6. Winning percentage, this is interesting. Koufax, 655 winning percentage. Career. Gibson, 591. Koufax gets the edge. So I'm going to give the edge to Koufax in wins, innings, strikeouts, complete games, career shutouts, wins in a season, innings in a season, strikeouts in a season, and winning percentage. Gibson gets the edge in best shutouts in a season and lowest ERA in a season. Who's greater, Koufax or Gibson? Who would you take? I'll take Koufax. Why? Well, let me show you something here. All right, we know Koufax quit at age 30. Sore arm, threw too hard, and he didn't want to damage his arm for the rest of his career. So he stops playing at age 30. Did you know that in his last 2 years, 1965, he's 29. No, he's 20. Yeah, he's 29 years old. He goes 27-8 in 1965. And in that year, he had 382 strikeouts. Incredible. Then in 1966, he comes back. He's 30 years old. He goes 27-5. Back-to-back 27-win seasons. So, and in that year, he strikes out 317. Back-to-back 300 strikeout seasons and back-to-back 27-win seasons, and back-to-back over 300 innings. Okay, you can say 2 really glorious years. I mean, 2 dominant years, and he's in his prime, 30 years old, but he stops. What could have been? If he's 30, let's say he pitches until he's 40, 10 more years. How many more wins would he have had? Well, he ended up with 165. 10 years, can we say maybe 150 more wins? 15 wins a year? Maybe 20 wins a year? Maybe 150 to 200 more wins? He would have had 365 victories, or maybe around 350 victories, if he pitches until he's 40, like a lot of pitchers do. You gotta say he's one of the most dominant pitchers of all time. But so he started off his career even slow. He starts off at 19, won 2 games. Age 20, he won 2 games for the year. Age 21, he wins 5 games. Then he wins 11, 8, 8. Then 1961 takes off, 18 wins. 1962, only 14 wins. But then in 1963, 25 wins. Comes back in 64, 19 wins. Then he wins 26 and 27. All right, I said he had back-to-back. What I meant to say was he had complete games of 27 complete games. Remember I was saying 27 to 27 back-to-back? My apology. 1965, he didn't win 27 games. He won 26. And then in 66, he wins 27. I was looking at the complete games. So Koufax, incredible. What about Gibson? All right. He pitched till he's 39 years old and he won 251 games. Kind of interesting. Why didn't Gibson get to 300 wins? Because that's the magic number for pitchers, 300 victories. Well, again, he started off slow. 21 years old, he won 6 games. Then he won 2 games, 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 3, 2. By the time, let's see, that was in the minors. But then in 1961, he's 25 years old. He takes off 13 wins, then 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 13, 22, 20, 23, 16, 19, 12, 11. So he wins 20 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times he went over 20 games. So Gibson's dominant, and Gibson ends up with over 3,000 strikeouts. Remember, Koufax 2,300 in 12 years. Gibson 3,000. Let's see how many. 3,117 strikeouts in 17 years. He stopped at age 39. But he didn't get going till he was about 24, 25. So 15 years, 16 years right in there. You got to give it to Gibson. He was tough. If you wanted to face him, he had 17 strikeouts in a World Series game. Remember that? But you got to give the edge to Koufax. Did you know that Koufax had 4 no-hitters and one of them was a perfect game? And that was that was up to the age of 30. If he pitches 10 more years, how many more no-hitters would Koufax have had? You think maybe 2 more, 3 more? We know Nolan Ryan leads with 7 no-hitters. Did you know that Nolan Ryan pitched 27 years? He has 7 no-hitters. And he won and a couple of those no-hitters was after the age of 40. So Koufax, if he pitches until age 40, he may have had 2, 3, maybe 4 more no-hitters if he had a strong arm and dominant fastball, curveball. He could have had 7 or 8 no-hitters, and it's possible he could have been the only pitcher in history with 2 perfect games because he has 1. But if he pitches after age 30, and let's say he pitched from age 30 to 40, is it possible that Koufax may have pitched another perfect game? Maybe. You know, no pitcher has 2 perfect games. There's a score of them that have a perfect game on their record. I don't know how many. Maybe 12 to 13 pitchers have pitched a perfect game. Maybe it's more. Koufax is one of them. You know, Nolan Ryan never had a perfect game. Bob Gibson never had a perfect game. Gibson had a no-hitter, I believe. I'd have to look that up. Gibson didn't have 4 no-hitters. Koufax had 4. What am I trying to say here? I take Sandy Koufax, and I think he's greater than Bob Gibson. Got my stats from my book, Baseball All-Time Player Matchups. What do you think of that analysis? Do you agree or disagree? Will you take Sandy Koufax in Game 7 or Bob Gibson in Game 7 of a World Series? Can't go wrong with either of them, but a healthy Sandy Koufax in his prime, dominant, I'd take Koufax. In fact, in one of the World Series games, he had a 2-0 shutout in a Game 7, I believe it was. 1965 against the Twins. 2-0 shutout, 9 innings. On the road, I believe. I watched that game on TV. Who is greater? I take Sandy Koufax over Bob Gibson. But props to Bob Gibson for pitching until age 39 and for 3,000 strikeouts and for 251 victories and for 13 shutouts in one season and 1.12 ERA in a season. Not bad. What's the most strikeouts for Gibson in a season? His high. See, 268 strikeouts was his high for a season. Koufax, 382 strikeouts one season. Players couldn't hit him. Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, they didn't like facing Koufax. You know, also, I think Willie Mays said it too. I was watching an interview with Willie Mays on Koufax, and he said that when Koufax threw a fastball, normally you throw the ball, he's left-handed, and the ball comes as a fastball, and it comes in straight, and maybe it'll sink. So the pitcher or the batter sees the ball. It's a fastball, but in order to time it, he'll swing over the top of it because it's so fast, at the last second it sinks. But what Willie Mays said was that when he faced him, I think this is accurate. If I'm off a little bit, my apology, but I think it's accurate, his analysis. He said that when he saw the fastball, it came in, it rose. So the law of gravity, how do you throw a fastball and the ball rises? So as Willie Mays was at the plate and he was going to hit that fastball, he swung under it versus a fastball that sinks and you swing over it. Follow my logic? So Koufax dominance was his fastball, but a rising fastball, how is that square with gravity? Throw a fastball, it's coming in, and at the last minute, it rises. Also, the curveball for Sandy Koufax, unhittable. It comes in, and to a right-handed batter, it'll curve at the last minute and just kind of jam him up, and he can't make contact. Or to the lefty, it would be a curveball that would go away from the guy, and he just couldn't hit it. I've seen Koufax strike out Mickey Mantle, and Roger Maris. They just had a hard time. Who's greater? You got to go with Sandy Koufax. Okay. That covers this episode. Next one, I got a real good one. Nolan Ryan matched up versus Randy Johnson. Have you heard of these two guys? Who is greater there? That'll be interesting. Stay tuned. I'm out.